Howdy, howdy, y'all. I'm Kurtis Sunset.
And I'm Leah Halston. And this is Weathering Rainbows.
Well, howdy, Miss Halston.
Let's go for a walk on the Rainbow Trail.
Oh, no. The last time you forgot the umbrellas and got us into a whole heap of trouble.
I won't forget this time. Let's go. Oh my, those sirens. I feel stormy weather moving in.
Girl, that ain't men it's raining. That's sequins and stones.
And we ain't got no umbrella. We better run.
Glad we had each other to weather the rainbows. Howdy, howdy, y'all, and welcome back to Season 3 of Weathering Rainbows.
Yeah, Season 3.
I'm Kurtis Sunset, for those of you all that are just now joining, and this is my lovely host.
I'm Leah Halston. Hello, everybody.
Yes. Are you excited to be back, Leah?
I am excited. I feel like we've been gone for a minute. Like it seemed like a long time, and I'm pretty sure it was not, but yeah.
Yeah, we were gone. It's been about a month since we've done solid recording. So what's been up with you this past month?
Just working. For those of you that tuned in on last season, I said I was starting foster care. I've started that. I'm on my 4th week of foster care training. It's a lot of information and that they're rushing through. But it's a 10-week course, and then I'll be certified as a therapeutic foster parent towards the beginning of May.
That's awesome. So you're like trucking right along with that. You're almost there.
Yeah. It's only 5 of us in my class, so I'm learning a lot. And also the first couple of weeks I wasn't absorbing the information because I'm still shocked, like I'm really doing this. So,
right.
But now I'm like, it's like school. It's a 10-week school. Like we do take a test at the end of the 10 weeks. I have a lot of reading to do. We do many tests. In the class, we have to do participation. We act out scenarios. It's tough, it's crazy, but I'm doing it.
That's great.
So
though. Like
on top of that, working and traveling and, still trying to maintain my day job, still trying to maintain my night job. It's been crazy, but I'm doing it.
And all them Sunday brunches that you go to, you're maintaining those too, I see.
But I'm not, okay, yes, I'm not performing at the brunches, but I am supporting. I'm giving, we got a new tour this year, so I'm giving the love to all the brunches and supporting all my sisters out there that's working hard on Sundays, and they're taking all my cash too. Yeah. What about you?
I have been busy as well. It's been a good break for me. I am excited. I've been able to catch up with things. For those of you that may have noticed, we are actually like most of season 1 videos are now up. So like even Leah's episode that, from whenever we filmed our 3rd episode ever on this show is now up online.
Okay.
So we're doing a lot of backdating and updating, and the website got a fresh remake, and we're applying for some grants, and there's just so much going on in terms of building the show this past month that if you haven't been on our website lately, you should definitely go check it out. There's been so many updates. So yeah, that's the main thing I've been working on is I've used this break as a like peaceful building of Weathering Rainbows, I guess.
Yeah.
And we've even got, which I don't even know if you've seen this yet, but we are now on buymeacoffee.com.
Okay.
And we will be adding stuff over time, like, for instance, any merch that we have or any special opportunities with us or special episodes, anything like that. You can go on buymeacoffee.com/rainbow shows, and that's where we're at. So you can also find that on our Instagram. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I wish I drank coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker.
So it allows you to change the last word. It's just called buymeacoffee.com. But so I changed it to buy me a heap of trouble, because I felt like that's more of what we will use those funds for, is to film fun videos and perhaps some dares along the way, and those kind of things. So I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes.
I'm also loving the new opening, which had me tickled.
Yes. Yeah. We have such an amazing animator that did that. And he's actually going to be on the second episode of this season to talk about all things animation. This guy is super intelligent, just super intelligent with everything to do with animation. So we're excited to see him. The animation, I don't know how you felt about it, but it was like, you never imagine yourself animated, and then when you see it, you're like, is this what I really look like? And then you freak out a little bit, but
it definitely took me a while. I was like, repeat, replay.
Right.
And I think I texted you, I was like, girl.
Oh yeah.
But it's funny, and I laughed at it. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of good feedback from it. People really have enjoyed that, and it's a fun little new intro. So I'm excited. Next thing, I guess, I do have an exciting announcement.
Yes,
and that is so recently, if you've ever heard of Matthew Lush, he has this game show on YouTube called My Gay Online Boyfriend. Well, he had a final season in which Chris Stan won, and Chris Stan is very popular on TikTok, on YouTube, on various things out there, and he has taken over that show. So he will be starting a new version of My Gay Online Boyfriend, and it just so happens that I am going to be on that show.
So, what? Yeah.
So
we love. Yeah.
So I get to do some a little more comedic type things, little things that may be outside of my comfort zone.
So things that I've been trying to get you to do.
Yeah, I have to do them for this.
Oh, so it takes an online dating show. Okay, yeah. I need to reach out to Bravo. I think we need a show.
Oh yeah, and this online gay dating show, it's a competition that people on YouTube they get to go watch the show, and then they vote on who to keep and who to let go. So I mean, it's kind of that nerve-wracking, you got to do well and that sort of thing.
So all the listeners and myself have to watch this show to vote for you.
Yes, so please go vote for me. So, I know the first episode, he has sent me a link that the first episode is going to be our videos and stuff, which I have actually shared with Leah ahead of time. I don't know. Did you like it, Leah? Was it funny? Was it different?
It was adorable. It's really cute. It's adorable. I honestly think you probably... Listen, fans, we're going to vote, but I think he's going to win. I think you're going to win. I think it's going to be good because I love the video. I watched it 2 or 3 times. So it's really good. It's really good.
Well, I appreciate it. It's something out of my comfort zone, but I'm really excited just to have some fun. These are the kind of videos that I want to do more of, even with our show, later on, now that I've kind of learned those talents. So
watching the clips you showed me to research on, your video is some of the videos I seen from the past season, I was like, whoa. Okay, so your video is it's good. It's good.
it may not be as spicy, you know. Like
It's
I'm
not
going
okay.
for
Yeah.
that nice little cheesy dad humor type of stuff. I think that'll
Yes,
work for
yes.
me.
That's
But
and I think that's what's going to work for you because I laughed and smiled and I was like, "Oh, this is so cute." But you guys, if I went to the previous season and watched some of the audition tapes, I was like, "Whoa."
you were
No,
like, what
they
is he getting
didn't.
himself into?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Listen, if I listen, I think the yellow jockstrap better make an appearance.
Oh Lord. Well, I did get a hint that the first video that's the actual competition is going to be fashion/style based. So
Oh.
we'll have to see what I come up with on that.
Well, listen, we wish you luck and we will be rooting you on. I know I will be tuned in watching.
Well, I hope everybody just gets some laughs and some fun out of it. So, but we'll see.
I'm gonna keep my I was when I text you the big eyes, I was like, I'm not gonna embarrass you on our show what I was actually wanting to say, but I know you so well. I know you so well, and this is I'm not surprised that you're doing this.
I know where you're going with this.
There's a few keywords. There's a few keywords I can shout out because I was at work and that's why I sent you the eyes. I was like, yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's reasons why I think that I would enter a competition, you know, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
It's a shame I know you so well, so yeah.
You know, I probably will, honestly, be the oldest person in this competition, I feel like. So we'll just have to see who the other competitors are, but I'm definitely going to play that dad vibe because that's all I got.
There were a lot of 18-year-olds.
A lot of youngins. Yeah, so we'll see how this goes. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I do want to talk about today's guest and then talk a little bit about some of our own experiences with this kind of stuff. Okay. And today we have Andrew Schaftlein, which is mayonnaise, who is a part of a production put on by Drag Daddy Productions this weekend, which is Tuba Atonement. And he wrote the show. It's about kind of like a autobiography type of thing about his life and his dealings with growing up gay in the church. But it's also got a tuba, you know, which apparently he played tuba in high school band. So I thought it would be fun to talk about our experiences with high school band.
Okay.
So were you in the band?
Okay, so first of all, yes, I was in band. It was my first academic course that I took in. I started band in middle school. My first instrument of choice was the clarinet, but the band director had already issued out all the clarinets. It wasn't enough, so I had to have an alternate. So my alternate was flute, and I didn't get the flute either. So my third alternate was something called the baritone, which was horrible, that I hated because I was in marching band, you guys, and I was a skinny little toothpick, and the baritone was this big masculine instrument that was heavy in marching band. So I just hated that instrument. So, but yes, I did play the baritone in middle school. And by the time I got to high school, in high school, I was in marching band as well. And I played the clarinet in marching band. So, I went to high school in Louisiana. So, my high school was called Opelousas High School, was the Tigers. And we actually got a chance we did a lot of the Mardi Gras. We were in Mardi Gras in New Orleans. And let me tell you something, that's a long parade for marching bands. We had people faint. People was passing out because the route is so long. Yeah, the route is long and it's a nighttime parade. So, but it's such a long parade. People would just like pass out. Like, I mean, I can't remember how many miles. We'll have to look up and see how many miles that parade is, but it was was a long parade. And,
Wow.
and mind you, like we were marching band, so we were a African American high school, so we were like dancing and putting out instruments on the ground and stuff. It was crazy, but
Was it like the movie Drumline? Because I love that movie.
Definitely like the movie Drumline, honey.
I'm still obsessed with that movie.
Well, so my story is so I went to high school. I went to 2 high schools. After I left Louisiana, I transferred to Texas. And in Texas, so in Louisiana, I used to be mad as hell playing the clarinet, but watching the majorettes and the dancing dolls dance. And I'm like, ooh, that's me. But I'm back here playing this damn clarinet, because I wanted to be a dancing doll so bad. But by the time I got to Houston, my high school year, I said, I'm not playing no instrument. I'm going to push myself to be a dancing doll or a majorette or something. And it didn't happen. I think we talked about this story. I ended up being a cheerleader instead. But marching band was fun for me. I do like marching bands. Do I think I can still play the clarinet? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't even think I can play any instruments anymore. But I just
I heard you could play the Diccolo really well.
Okay,
that's what I heard. I just heard a rumor that you're very good at that. So,
I mean, anything that involves blowing, I'm really good at.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that extra lung capacity for that kind of stuff. Yeah,
yeah. No, marching band was one of my favorite academics in high school. And I'm just glad that I got a chance. Like, I can read music, so I got a chance. Like, I can read music. I know notes and stuff. I actually like hearing live music better. As a performer, I grew as a performer to love live music. So if you ever catch me on a show, if I like to do the live version of, like, Beyonce or Tina, Donna Ross, because there's something about live instruments that makes you feel the music more. So I just like live music.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. I was actually not in band per se. I actually come from a very long line of family that plays that was in bluegrass music. Actually, some of my family, I believe, used to tour with Bill Monroe, like the king of bluegrass music. So
yeah,
so they've got that kind of talent. I actually went the different route. Like, I learned the piano when I was a kid, and I can still do a little bit of piano, but I'm not like exceptional at it. It was one of those things I kind of lost over time. But I did have one experience with marching band in which I played a wireless microphone. And what I mean by that is we were ahead of our time or whatever in 2008 McLean County Marching Band. And I actually, while the band played all around me and marched all around me, I was like out on the field telling a story over this microphone as they played music. So so I kind of had to do this, like, marching in and out and like going into doors and all this kind of stuff. And it wasn't color guard. Like, I was not a part of that, but like, I guess it kind of was. I don't know. So so it was a neat experience. And, I guess it kind of paid off today because I still kind of do that now. So.
Well, it's funny because I'm not going to include you in this because you're young. I'm old, and I'm not ashamed of it, but I kind of wish that we had iPhones and all this shit back when I was doing this stuff, because I would love to have seen myself marching in the marching band and doing all this stuff. We had these big ass camcorders, honey, that, I'm sure there's a VCR tape of me doing something somewhere. I don't know.
So this is fun. Yeah. And this is the thing about cameras that I don't like. So I'm going to flash this picture. Anybody that's watching on our YouTube channel, which if you're not watching the show, please go watch it. It's so much better because we actually we toss things up on the screen all the time, especially this season. It's going to be totally amazing. But I'm going to flash this picture of me from high school band. And,
oh, God.
And it is hideous. So it does not look like me. I had black hair, like bow cut black hair. Okay. And the ironic thing is like I was in this like orange suit with like black, like sequin vest on. And this was whenever everyone thought I was straight. Like, here's your sign, people. Like, I'm wearing this like sequin outfit in this like emo style like mood, and it's a mess.
Oh my God.
So you will have to watch that in the video. And I'm also going to post in this video. Leah is also very good at just joining in on bands.
Yes.
You want to tell this story? Where did this happen at?
Okay, so the clip is from Jacksonville, Florida. One of my best friends. Shout out to Deranged. We love Deranged.
Yes.
Deranged she lives in Jacksonville, Florida. At the time, she's in Pensacola now. But I went up to this club. It's a club called Metro she was working at. It was my first time there. She was excited. We had a whole weekend. And when me and Deranged get together, we drink and we get drunk. The Metro is like almost like play. There's a theater, and then there's a lounge where there's a live person playing the piano live. So this guy has all kind of instruments where you can just join in. So on the break of the show, I said, well, she was showing me the lounge, and the guy, he was kind of cute. So he's playing, and I'm like, okay. And then he's like, come join me. And I'm like, okay. And so I picked up this bazooka piano like thingy, and I was so drunk. I don't know what I was playing, but I was trying to like keep up with him. It's a train wreck, but it's so funny. We laugh at this video all the time. It's so crazy because I was serious. I was serious. I thought I was his like assistant, you know. So I was pretty serious. It's a great video.
I think you were as good as Beethoven. That's my opinion. I'm gonna stick to it.
Listen.
So, you know what? I think that is the perfect segue into the interview. I'm gonna stop us here and play this clip so that everybody can have a good laugh before joining in with Andrew Schaftlein from Tuba Atonement, which is this weekend, this Friday and Saturday at 7:30 at Play Louisville. So we will see y'all in a couple weeks.
Woo! We love.
For this season, Weathering Rainbows has partnered with J Steel Studios. We highly recommend J Steel Studios for any and all glamour and fashion photography needs. So whether you're looking for that beauty shot, that old school vibe, or perhaps a little something more vibrant, or even something a little more sexy. J Steel Studios can do it all. So book your photo shoot today. today we have Andrew Schaftlein, also known as the wonderful Mayonnaise, who has a wonderful new production called Tuba Atonement out this week. So I'm going to kick it over to Mayonnaise to introduce herself.
Thank you so much. You're looking adorable.
Well, thank you.
Yes. So, yes, my name is Mayonnaise. I'm just a little boy on the inside who grew up in rural northern Indiana. So when I found out about Weathering Rainbows, I was tickled to death because this is so needed. Yeah, I grew up as a pastor's kid, so very conservative, religious upbringing. Not the most conservative, not like kissing snakes on the mouth sort of conservative, but definitely like Rush Limbaugh in the car all day and night, like that sort of energy. Yeah. So I've been doing drag for about 2 years. Before that, I was just kind of doing straight acting and musical theater. I am aware I just said straight musical theater, which is an oxymoron.
A little bit.
A little bit. But yeah, during COVID lockdown, I had been kind of tiptoeing into drag, and I was like, screw it, let's go full force. So I'm here today as a kind of a newer drag queen who's kind of getting her sea legs, and I'm thrilled to have written this show, Tuba Atonement, to kind of pump out into the world as my first solo project.
Yeah, I think that's amazing to kind of be an upcoming drag queen to producing your own show. I mean, you wrote the script, you're producing it, you're doing all of it. I think there is a director for it, isn't there?
Yes, so we've got a director, and actually Drag Daddy Productions is producing.
Okay.
Yes.
So we got Drag Daddy is producing, and who's the director?
William Nichols.
William Nichols. All right.
Yes.
And when are the dates for that?
So the dates are the 11th and 12th. That's this coming Friday, Saturday. I think we're going to throw in another random date toward the end of the month. So Tuba Atonement goes through a sort of a lighthearted reflection on religious trauma. Woo! Yes. Yeah. So I go ahead.
I will, just so everybody out there knows, Weathering Rainbows will be there on Friday night for this opening to see it. So we're excited. Actually, the team member that's going with me is our co-producer. And she was like, I don't know if I can handle this if it's very traumatic. And so I said, well, let me ask this question. How traumatic is this show going to actually be for some of us that have actually gone through that?
Yeah, so here's the thing. The first draft of this script was actually a therapeutic exercise. My therapist was like, let's start writing all this out. You've got a lot to work through. And through that process, I was like, oh, this could be like a cute show that I'd like to share with people. And so the first draft was like dark. It was like, I'm going to rip open every wound and let the blood like pour out of my body. And then every iteration after, I actually talked with my therapist, Laura Barclay, who's an incredible person in the Louisville area who specializes in people with religious spiritual trauma. A little plug for her.
That's great.
We actually talked intentionally, like, how can we share this story with others in a way that's not going to trigger too much for folks? And what ended up happening was I discovered that telling the story about myself purely is a lot, but if I'm doing it in drag, it kind of pulls back the closeness to all of those painful memories. And then also I'm playing the tuba throughout. And so the tuba kind of becomes this metaphor for the queerness. So rather than looking at a queer person experiencing trauma, myself and the audience is looking at the tuba as this thing that we can all observe together. So we can kind of see these experiences happening without trying, to like be back in it. So it's very lighthearted. It's lots of comedy. I think it's going to resonate with anyone who is raised in the church, whether or not you had a more positive or less positive experience.
That's great. And I wanted to ask that mainly because I know that there are people that are very triggered by religious trauma. You know, I grew up in the church. I was from a Baptist background. I'm the only male in my family not a Baptist minister. So, you know, there's some good fun there. But and I know that we are very good about telling our story with that comedy included. And I think that's something that's really unique about our stories is we always manage to like bring that humor out. And it's kind of our way of like accepting it and dealing with it, you know? So, so you obviously grew up in the church. What denomination were you? And tell us a little bit about your coming out story.
Yeah. So I grew up in the United Methodist Church. I kind of describe it as it's a mainline moderate church. And then depending on which church you're in, it can skew way conservative or way liberal. So my coming out story was interesting. And I talk about this in the show. I grew up in this time in the Methodist Church when they rebranded. And they kind of saw this trend in the 90s where people were starting to come to church less. So it was, how do we get more people in church? And so they came up with this cute little motto. And the motto was open hearts, open minds, open doors, the United Methodist Church. And so I grew up with an aunt who was an out lesbian who had a partner and kids. And I kind of, being in the church constantly, absorbed that motto of ours. And so by the time I realized I was gay, I had really thought, I think this is going to be okay. I think I can tell my parents. I think I can tell people at church because like we're really accepting and we're really affirming. You know, I really believed that. And then this thing happened where my aunt, who was a lesbian, decided she kind of found Jesus, in her words, and decided she was no longer a lesbian and split up with her wife. And there was this jubilation in my household. I remember so clearly. I was 6th grade, so I was really just starting to understand that I was a little queer baby. And watching, as I'm in one moment thinking, I think I'm ready to come out. And then the other hand, watching the relief from my whole family that my aunt was no longer a lesbian, it like shoved me way back in the closet. Yeah. And it's kind of, you know, there are some churches you go to where they're like, we hate the gays, they're all going to hell. There's something a little more sinister about, we're going to really pretend that everybody's cool, but then you kind of scratch the surface and that's not it at all. So that was very much the energy. And then coming out, I waited till I was a little older. I was out to friends in high school. And then I've got 2 older brothers who are also religious folks. My oldest brother runs Methodist summer camps, and the middle brother is a Quaker pastor. I'm the youngest, clearly starved for attention. Hello.
Doing ministry in a different type of way, right?
Different kind of ministry. So I told my brothers, they've been so super supportive. And then by the time I was ready to tell my parents, I waited till I had someone I wanted to bring home, because I felt comfortable in myself. I had told the people who mattered most, my brothers and my friends. So when I ended up coming out to my parents, I did it at Christmas. So both my brothers were home with one had a wife, one had a girlfriend. And I was about to leave. I was living in Chicago at the time. So I had like a nice 3-hour drive out the door, and I sat everybody down and I said, all right, I just got to tell you something. I'm gay. And like my parents' faces floated toward the floor, staring at the floor. They were no longer looking at me. And my sweet sister-in-law, Jessica, she stood up and she said, well, you know, we love you no matter what. And so she kind of broke this really tense moment. And funny enough, my dad, who's the minister, he kind of came around pretty quick and ended up telling me, he's like, I've been waiting years for you to say that to me. And then my mom had a much tougher time, and it took her several years to process through, like, okay, my son is gay, he's going to hell. And then she kind of processed through, you know, through some therapy and talking with people, she came to a place where he's not going to hell. And that was her biggest, you know, that was her biggest worry, being a religious person.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know our listeners are probably like me, and we've got to circle back to this aunt story. So where did she end up with all of this? And how did was she living whenever you came out, or?
Yeah, so Aunt Pammy is still here. She is so interesting to me. So my mom's the youngest of 6, and her sister Pam is the oldest. So she's like 77. So she's kind of getting up in age, and she seems to be in this place where for her living, I hate this term, being a practicing homosexual was not for her anymore. But when my husband and I got married, she was at the wedding and super supportive. And I'll never forget, we were on the dance floor. This was 6 years ago. And we're, dancing, and people are coming in, congratulating us. And she came up sobbing and she hugged both of us. And she just kept saying, this could have been me. This should have been me. So it was like this heartbreaking moment that she seemed to be saying that she was so conflicted in her own queerness. She had a rough time, like just living as herself. And it was heartbreaking. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's a different generation, so I can completely understand where she was at in terms of going through that. That's tough.
Yeah, it is.
I hate the term practicing homosexual too. I think I'm going to reverse that. And like any straight person, like straight Christians and stuff from now on, I'm going to be like, you're not straight. You're just a non-practicing homosexual. Like, that's what I'm going to do. Just turn it around on them,
Yeah, it was amazing. The language in the Methodist Church was, queer people could be ministers, but they couldn't be self-affirming that they were queer. So it was like you had to be in like recovery, or it was kind of a weird. So what a lot of them started doing was, they would be found out that they had partners or spouses, and their higher ups would drag them in and they'd say, "Are you homosexual?" And their response would be, "If I affirm I'm homosexual, I'll lose my job." And it was like pleading the fifth. And they would just say that over and over. So they would never affirm, but they would never lie. Wow. And so they kept their jobs.
Wow.
Yeah.
I totally know all about that. My brothers actually found, it was whenever I was like first like learning about myself, and they found my Queer as Folk DVDs where I was like binging, because that was back whenever like it was not on Netflix. It was just like you had to burn DVDs to get copies of it.
Totally.
And so that they found that, and they were like, "What is this?" And I was like, at that point, I was like, "It's Queer as Folk. Like, it's what I'm watching to learn about the community." And like that next day, like I got a call from the pastor, and he's like, "Say it isn't so," and I'm like, "It is." I was like, "It's still me. I still believe in God. I still do all that, but I'm gay. Like, deal with it,
Yeah.
So,
oh God.
So yeah, I get a little bit about all that.
Yeah.
So I want to let's talk a little bit more about the show itself. So obviously, did you actually grow up in high school playing the tuba? Or?
I did. So I would say like 85% of it is autobiographical. Of course, tweaked for, different reasons. I did grow up playing tuba. I was the biggest band nerd you ever saw in your whole life. I was in the marching band playing tuba. I was in pep band playing tuba. I was in the jazz band playing trombone. I was in a French horn quintet for a while. I was like that band nerd. And there's this moment in the show where I talk about arranging a tuba quartet that I played on Easter Sunday, and that is fully factual. It was epic. Wow. It was incredible. Yes. Yeah.
That is awesome. I was in band 1 year, but
what'd you play?
I played my voice. Actually, I literally walked around the field and talked into a wireless microphone and like told a story as like the band played behind me. Like I told this whole story about like journeys and all this. So it was, different in those days, I guess. This was 2008, I think, whenever they started doing that kind of stuff.
But, nice.
And then I always got in trouble because the band director was like, you got to lose a little bit of that rural accent whenever you're on that mic.
Sure. Yeah.
And I need to like write him a message now and be like, hey, you remember that rural accent that got me in trouble on the mic when I was in high school? Well, it pays the bills now.
Yes, it does. Yes. I love that. It's so good.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say the show too is, so I went to school for geography. I was in grad school for a few years for geography. And so this connection to home is something that I've been interested in forever. I'm obsessed with people's hometowns and where they're from. And so in this show, I really am intentional about situating myself in northern Indiana. My family's been in northern Indiana, like at the time when there were still reservations for Native folks in Indiana, like
wow.
long time. So I'm really intentional on putting myself there. And I think it's so important, the work that you're doing, and Leah, that as we like make sure that we are seen as queer people in these rural cities, rural communities, small cities, I think it's so important. I brought, can I show you a prop I brought?
Yeah, definitely.
Look at this. So this is an iconic landmark in the city I'm from, Kokomo, Indiana. And Kokomo was started because there was natural gas found. And so forever and ever and ever, there's this giant natural gas tower that just sat there. And it was like so iconic that the other tallest structure is like 4 stories. It's, you know, it was a small town for a long time. But this thing would just like loom over the city. I want to say it was probably like 22 to 25 stories tall, and it was just occupying everything.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's since come down, but I keep this with me. It's actually in my drag room because I got to remember it's like almost a spiritual practice, a mantra, like this is where I'm from. Yeah. This is what I'm representing. And I used to, you know, like a lot of us, I used to kind of be embarrassed that I'm from rural Indiana. And now it's like this part of me that I'm desperate to hold on to and don't want to lose.
Absolutely. I completely agree and understand that. Like, I always tell people, like, one of the main reasons we started this show is like our stories are told by people out in LA that have no clue about our stories. And we write all these shows about, you know, the tragedies in the church and all this kind of stuff, but they don't realize that there's a lot of good that came out of that for us too, you know? So it's a balance, and, you know, not all these skies are gray. Like there's some good parts in living in a rural area as well. So I hold on to everything. I'm one of those like super memento type people. So like everything has like a gift or something. So where are you at today in terms of your spirituality? Obviously you grew up in a church, you had these experiences. Where are you today?
I am firmly agnostic today. So I'm at a place where I do believe with all my heart there's something bigger out there. I'm not sure what that is, but I keep coming. Yeah. It's this like endless cycle where I'm like, the church is awful. It's done all these horrible things to, you know, the globe. And then also just like in people's hearts and minds, they've like cut people down. And then I remember all of the ways in which I found community and belonging, and all these things that may not have at the time nurtured my queer side, but were instrumental in shaping who I was. And so I'll be like, you know what, there's got to be a church where I can, you know, get community and feel fully affirmed. And so then I'll go to a church for a little bit and I'll be like, no, this is why I left. So it's like this, like every 2-year cycle. So I'm still figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, we have every type of religion and denomination and everything on this show. And I think it's always so neat to hear people's journeys, like regardless of what they believe in or how they believe, like just to hear the process and like, are they even still remotely spiritual, having gone through a lot of these things is a key for me. So that's interesting. So I know you've got 3 do's and don'ts related to talking to church folk. Can you hit us with those?
I will. So it's been a while since I've been back in a church. And then in the fall, my great aunt died. She had a great life. You know, it was a celebration of a funeral. But I was suddenly back home with all these people I grew up with all my family members I hadn't seen in a couple years. And so I was like shaking in my boots. But these are some of the strategies I use to get through it. These are the do's and don'ts of talking with church folks as a queer person.
Love it.
Make them as nervous as possible. Start your sentences with things like, last night at the gay club, or maybe, last summer when I was in Provincetown during Bear Week, and then just launching this stuff. Watching them sweat is so, and it's so Midwestern too, because, they can't escape. They've got to be polite at all costs, or they're going to listen to whatever you say. It's very fun.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Do volunteer to lead a prayer, thanking God for things like the people who are fighting for justice in the world, like Black Lives Matter activists. And this is clearly coming from the context of being raised in an almost all-white place. Make them squirm. Yeah. And then do invite them to your next gig. Let them know you're doing the drags. Get them at the next thing. Okay, here's the don'ts.
Wait, before you do that.
Yeah, go.
Did you invite your family to your gig?
Oh, this is a great question. I invited my siblings to this gig. And this was intentional. I labored through this with my therapist. So there's a depiction of my mother, and it's a fictionalized version. So she kind of becomes Ursula the Sea Witch. So it is.
Oh my goodness.
It's not nearly as dark as it could be, but before she were to see that, we'd have to have some conversations, and I did not feel like I was in the right place to have that conversation in the weeks leading up to this. So
it's understandable.
No, I did not. I think someday though she may show up. I may let her see
That's good.
Yeah.
That's understandable. It's baby steps. At least you invited the siblings first, so we're good there.
Yes, totally. They have been to some other gigs. So it's not about them seeing me in drag. It's about watching them watch me dredge up family shit on a stage. They don't need that. I don't need to experience them experiencing that. That's what I don't need.
Well, when they do come, if you want me to just sit on the other side of the curtain and just video their reactions, we can post one of those kind of coming out videos, only it's when my family sees me do drag talking about them. Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Well, let's launch into the don'ts. What are some don'ts for talking to church folk?
Don'ts. Don't look less queer. You show up to that function looking like your best little gay self. At my aunt's funeral, I kind of butched it up a little, which I like to do. I love to be in a suit. But I had this my second cousin's child. I didn't know who they were. This amazing little queer baby showed up with a full face on, eyeliner, very non-binary. I was so proud. And I was like, oh man, if I was also looking more queer, we could have had a moment. But don't look less queer. Don't underestimate the power of a well-timed compliment to a woman's carry-in dinner dish. So if someone made that casserole, you walk up to her and you say, yes, ma'am. Those crackers on top of that creamy chicken, that was delicious. And don't you dare hesitate when they ask you what you've been up to pull out your phone and show them your IG account. You show them your drags. You show them your thirst traps. You show them all the gay shenanigans you've been up to. They asked, and now they're going to see.
That's very good. I think those are very bold moves for talking to church folks. So, which that's the goal, you gotta inundate them somehow,
Yes.
Some of us go a little slower, but I like your style.
Well, and I'll tell you, I did that at this funeral with one of my aunt's friends who knew me as a child, one of those sort of people. And I showed her and she whispered, I look at your account all the time. You're so pretty. I said, yes, ma'am, thank you. So even this straight presenting cis woman was somehow feeling, entertained or some kind of way about looking at me in drag. So never count anybody out.
That is wonderful. I love that story.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a segment on our show that we call the Heap of Trouble. Basically, your most comedic kind of or something you didn't know about in LGBTQ world, that sort of kind of story. Do you have one of those for us?
Yeah, I've got a story. So, all right, let's get into it. So I went to 1 year of college and then decided I had to escape because I was having a crisis with identity. And I was like, I got to get out of here. So I became an au pair and I lived in the Netherlands for a year with this amazing family. And I was, living outside of Amsterdam, starting to feel real gay. And I had never had a one night stand. And I said, I'm going to make this happen. I got to find someone to hook up with. This is like a rite of passage, becoming an adult. It doesn't have to be. I'm saying that's where I thought I was. And so I it might have been like Craigslist. This was like 2009. Yeah, 2009.
Yeah.
2008. And I found this guy and, he was super cute. We exchanged pictures. And so I took my little train into Amsterdam. I was at the time going to improv classes. So I did my improv class, got all my sillies out, and then planned to go meet up with this guy. So I show up to his house. He's in this like gorgeous, like classic Dutch home on a canal. You like walk up all these flights of stairs and he opens the door and it's truly the most gorgeous person in the world. The pictures did not do him justice. So I'm like sweating. Wow. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I should go through with this. This is a stranger I met abroad. And so I walk in and we're, he pours me a beer or something and we're making small talk. And I asked him, I said, well, how was your day? And he said, not good. And he broke down sobbing, like heaving, snotting. And I don't know who this guy is, but I like kind of scooched over toward him and I rub him on the back. And I was like, well, what's going on? And earlier that day, a big old passenger plane had crashed in the Netherlands. And this dude was a first responder. So he had spent the whole day dragging like burned up people out of this plane, like getting all these bodies into ambulances, into the hospitals. And he's like telling me all this shit that he saw. And like, I don't know what to do. So I'm just kind of rubbing his back. And at some point he pulled himself together and he's like, I don't think I can have sex tonight. And I was like, yeah, I don't think you should either. And I was like, that's okay. And so we ended up, I slept over to like cuddle him. I cuddled him in his bed as he sobbed. And there was something a little bit sweet about it, but also I was just like, I don't know this man. And he's seen charred up bodies today. And so the next morning, I was like, I've seen this in rom-coms. After you've spent the night with someone, you got to go cook breakfast or go find breakfast. So I go into his kitchen. He's still sleeping and I got to pan out. I'm like, let's see what's in the fridge. There's eggs, there's bacon. I'm like, great, I know how to cook. And so I'm in there cooking and he comes into the kitchen and he's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm making breakfast. And he said, I don't think I can eat. I said, oh, that's okay. Like what? I'm like, that's fine. And then he went over to the skillet and he said, did you use a metal spatula on my skillet? And I say, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And he said, well, these eggs are ruined and so is the pan. And he threw the pan in the trash and I left.
Oh,
that was it.
My gosh.
So that was, and all the years I had dreamed about my first hookup with like a rando, that was what it was. So be careful out there, kids.
That was so much to take in just now. Like I can't even respond to that. Like your wild first time.
Yeah.
And this is oh my gosh. I can't even imagine. Like
just big spooning a gorgeous sobbing man. It was tough.
I mean, why did he even think he could like have a hookup that night? Was this like planned weeks in advance or something? Like, oh my gosh.
No. Yeah.
Are you sure you wasn't on some like punk show? That's too much. Like you need to go like figure out this country and like make sure you weren't on one of them shows. Because
I know I could be on the internet somewhere. They're like dumb American scratches the Teflon off of a frying pan with a metal spatula.
What?
Yes.
A story. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you the heap of trouble story of all seasons so far. You are the winner.
Yes!
I will give it to you. Like that is the best Heap of Trouble story I have heard since day one. So you win. All right.
Well, I'm flattered. Thank you.
All right. Well, I do want to talk. Let's go into. I want to know some of your influencers and things like that in LGBTQ world.
Yeah. So my so my first big queer. I say queer influence because I think this is a cisgender heterosexual woman. When I was a little boy, my media consumption was so restricted. But then I'm the last child. And at the time I was like 12, 13, home computers were really coming into homes. And so I had, for the first time, access to like anything I wanted because I could never watch what I wanted on TV. And I found my way to the queerest of all queers, Missy Misdemeanor Elliott. And I would watch these music videos. I would watch Get Your Freak On and work it. And she is doing this like mask presenting like stuff where she's like, the shit and all these like bizarre visuals. And so as I think about like, especially with my drag, she left such an impression on like appearing queer and having these like off the wall visuals that has stuck with me today. I don't think she's queer. In fact, I know she's dated. She appears to be heterosexual.
She does have that vibe though, so I can get that.
Yes. But in terms of, I'll just stick with drag. So I had watched drag and loved drag for years, but I was like, I didn't identify with wanting to be like a beauty queen, runway model, like lip sync, dancey girl. So I didn't really think there was a place quite for me. And then someone mentioned to me, oh, like you got to go watch all of the old Cabaret drag queens. And I was like, there are drag queens just doing straight cabaret? And so I found my way to these gals who are all like in their 50s, 60s. Like there's an amazing drag queen named Varla Jean Merman, who is so campy, so off the wall. She's been doing drag for 30 years. Dina Martina. And then like some of the more contemporary ones like Ginger Minge or Ben de la Creme who are giving you live singing. They're giving storytelling. They're giving comedy. So that's kind of where I settled. And as I was, kind of finding my voice in drag, I took a trip to Provincetown and got to see a bunch of the gals who do their summer residencies. And I was like, oh shit, this is it. This is the drag that I want to be doing.
Yeah. And I think it fits right in with what Drag Daddy Productions is all about. That's really what Tony Lewis highlights over there is that kind of that type of drag queen. So it's amazing. We were just talking the other day, like it's sometimes difficult because like some people like to identify as drag queens. Some people like to identify as like female impersonators, and it's like, you don't want to offend anybody, but like there's so many different genres of drag queens. And so I think it's incredible that you brought that subject up.
And Tony was so supportive. I said, I wrote this show. I think it should be at Play or somewhere. What do you think? And he looked at it. He's like, oh yeah, done. He's like, you're telling me all I have to do is find you a venue and you've already written it and you're self-directed. And he's like, yeah, no problem. Let's go.
That's great. Yeah. Tony is hugely supportive in that. I love that. So one thing we do on this show is we always allow our guests to give one kind of like wrap-up piece of advice to rural kids out there that are going through this LGBTQ plus journey, the rainbow trail, as I like to call it. So what kind of wrap-up advice would you give to those kids out there?
Okay, there's a musical called Title of Show, and it's a musical about two guys writing a musical about two guys writing a musical. It's very inside baseball for theater kids. But there's a quote from the song that I heard when I was like grappling with coming out that like stuck with me forever and ever to this day. And they say, I'd rather be 9 people's favorite thing than 100 people's 9th favorite thing. So to me, what that means is, especially as queer folks, we're going out into the world. there are a lot of people who can't handle how fabulous we are, how outspoken, or just, you know, maybe we're not shiny and brassy and covered in glitter and men wearing wigs, but there's still going to be people who don't like us. And as long as we can remember that you got to find a little group of folks who love you exactly as you are, and that we are not made for mass consumption. There's some queer folks who are beloved, but a lot of us, you just got to hold on to your small community and know and not feel bad that a lot of people aren't going to like us. And your little crew is enough.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Before we get into our pot of gold, actually kind of off of that, I noticed that you have an absolutely beautiful family. You've got children and you are a parent. And I think that's something that's truly inspiring to a lot of rural LGBTQ kids out there, because, you know, when we grew up, it was almost unheard of or something we felt like we could never actually attain. You know, we didn't think we could ever have that family or those children. You know, what is that like now that you are a parent? And give us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my husband and I, one of the things that brought us together is we both really wanted kids. And we kind of had a zigzaggy journey through that. We started out as certified foster parents, ended up we did not get a placement that ended up being long-term. And then we went for a private adoption and ended up having someone pulled out at the last minute, which was incredibly heartbreaking. And so we ended up being able to, my husband, let's be real, I'm not making the money putting on a wig and dancing on stage. My husband's got a good job. So we saved up and we ended up finding a surrogate to carry our kiddos. And so at the height of pandemic craziness in 2020, May 2020, our twins were born, which was a whole journey in itself. They were born in Fort Collins, Colorado. And that was a time when people were scared to fly. So we ended up driving to Fort Collins and then driving home with like 3-day-old babies, stopping every 2.5 hours to like change diapers and let our dog go pee. It was like a epic saga. But yeah, so my advice is, or my thoughts on being a queer parent is, it's possible if you want it. But also, as more queer folks, especially when like more like white gay men start having lives that resemble heterosexual lives more and more, I just want us all to be aware that like, do not take it on any of that pressure that I've got to have kids. Like, part of the fun of being queer in the past was that there were zero expectations on reproducing or having, you know, kids like that. Leah Delaria, right, from Orange is the New Black, amazing lesbian icon. She has this quote where, you know, she talks about being pissed in the last like 10 years. Like, it's amazing we have more rights, but she's like, homosexuality used to be about sex. And she's like, do not ever forget, the reason they hate us is not because we want to have families. It's not because we want to have jobs and secure housing. It's because they hate the way, I don't know if we can swear in here. They hate the way we have sex. And so just holding on to like, you do not have to have a normative life. You do not have to have the husband, the wife, the partner, the kids. You are enough. But for those of us who may want that, it's easier than it's ever been, and hopefully continues to be easier. And if anyone has questions about our journey, just find me on Instagram. I'm happy to talk you through that some more.
That is some wonderful advice. And I know there's a lot of, especially rural kids, they grow up in that family environment, you know, so they do want that eventually. And I think it's so inspiring to see people now that are raising, I mean, wonderful families out there. We've had a couple on the show already that have big, large families, you know, so it's great. Yeah. So we do a final segment called the Pot of Gold. It's the time for you to ask me one final question of anything under the sun that you want to know.
Anything?
And then I get to ask you anything. And then I get to ask you one final question to wrap up the show. So
oh my God.
If you've got a question, I'll let you go first.
I've got one. You tell me if it's awful and you don't want to answer it.
Okay.
In my set, I do a whole bit about having IBS and what that's like to be a gay man who bottomed with IBS, and it's like a fun comedic thing. I do a parody of Taylor the Latte Boy where I'm gotta find a bathroom. I love stories about when people can't get to the bathroom in time. Do you have a story where you were in desperate trouble, the tummy was grumbling, or your bladder was about to explode, and you couldn't find relief? You're like, this is disgusting.
I mean, I'd be more than happy to tell those kind of stories on myself, but I don't know if I've had one.
Oh, you lucky man.
I'm so thankful that I don't have IBS, but I know so many gays that do have that, like that's a serious thing. Like we went to Disney with a friend one time, and he was like, I've got IBS, I've got to go right now. And like, he was like running from the ride to the, so like totally get it.
Yes.
I think the only like story I have like that was when I was little, and like I like got in trouble at like a softball game or something. And I think I was like 9 or 10 years old at this point. So like a time whenever like I should have been able to hold myself. And like they came back, and I had little goat turds in my, so,
not goat turds.
Yeah. But they were like, yeah, you had like 3 little goat turds whenever you were that age, in the car, and I was like, oh my gosh. But I'm just going to chalk that up as a traumatic memory that I don't remember from that age. So
yeah, you don't need to hold on to that one. No.
Oh Lord.
No, that's great.
Well, you've already managed to do a couple verses. I think the first time we've talked about poop on the show. So
listen, I could go all day, baby. I could go. I'll be back for a special.
we have talked a lot of shit on this show, but we've never actually talked about poop. So
literal.
So
shit.
Yes. All right. Well, you win.
Love it.
All right. Well, I'm going to make you tell another funny story because I have enjoyed all of yours so far.
All right.
Obviously, band kids. You were a band kid, and I think band kids are like the biggest, like, either sexual freaks or like they do all kinds of things. Whenever I was going to school, that was just so much. Like, you always hear the rumors about the band closet. Like all the things happening in the band closet.
Yes.
So my question to you is, what was your kind of like wildest story or experience being in high school band?
Oh my God. Most of the wild things that happen in band were told to me after the fact. I was never in the sexy places. I do remember, I don't know, this is it's a little graphic. Is it okay? Okay.
Oh, you're fine.
If we gotta cut it, you let me know.
Yeah, it's edited if I need to, so we're good.
So I remember there's this couple. This was my sophomore year, and they were hot and heavy all during band camp. And it was one of those things where we're like standing out in the August sun, sweating, and everyone's like, "When are they gonna do it? When are they gonna do it?" It was like this thing, and we were all pressuring them, like, "Make it happen! You love each other." And then something happened. They broke up, and nobody knew the like true story. And so we were all desperate to find out what happened. What ended up happening, according to sources, I don't know how true they were, was they went to go make it happen. And you're exactly right. It's always a closet. We had this like back storage area where you could lock up all your instruments, and there was never anyone back there. And they said they were back there and they were about to do it. And the boy, he thrust so hard and missed that he ripped his foreskin, and he ended up bleeding everywhere. He was so humiliated. He had to go to the nurse. They didn't know what was going on. And this is why I think the story is suspicious. People would point to a very grotesque large spot on the carpet and say, "This is where it happened. This is the stain." But it was so much. It was such a big stain.
Gosh.
I was like, "There's no way this could be real." But like, that was the legendary story that went around. I will never forget. And that, to this day, I've always thought, don't have sex too hard. You're going to end up like that boy.
Oh my goodness. That's going to be one of those stories like like once we're all like deceased and stuff, they're going to tell the story of the ghost in the band closet that had his foreskin ripped and like, oh my goodness.
Sure, they're still telling that story. They must. Woo. Yeah.
That one's a lot. That's awesome though. I mean, sorry to that kid out there somewhere, but I guess
I know.
Hopefully he got over that trauma.
I need to see him at the reunion and ask if it was true.
Right. That's the best way to start off a conversation. Hey, how's things down there? You know,
can we talk about your foreskin? I got a question.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, these were some great stories. I really appreciate having you on our show. As everybody knows, Tuba Atonement is out this weekend at Play Louisville Friday and Saturday. That's March 11th and March 12th. Get your tickets. You can get them, I believe, on Play's website as well as.
Yes.
Can you get them through Drag Daddy? Or
yeah,
it's all through Play's website?
You can go to Drag Daddy. It'll reroute you. Yeah.
Okay. So you can go to Drag Daddy Productions or to Play's website to buy your tickets. And we will see you all on Friday. So thank you so much for being a part of our show.
Yes, thank you too. Thanks, Kurtis.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Don't forget to come on back now. I know we all love a little vibration, so if you are not already, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. And we will surprise you on occasion with a new release vibration in your pocket. But in the meantime, if you find yourself alone or crossing new horizons along the Rainbow Trail, and you need a friend or even a laugh to get you through those dark and stormy nights, holler on out to us at www.weatheringrainbows.com, where you can find shelter in the blogs, videos, and other episodes that will hopefully keep you out of a whole heap of trouble. So until next time, y'all, giddy up, be true to yourself, and make the best of life. And wherever the wild tracks may lead you, may the rainbow always touch your shoulder.